Hi, Leigh. How are you
Hi,
doing?
Lily.
How are you
How are
doing
you?
today?
I'm great.
Good. I'm glad. I'm so happy to have you on She is Your Neighbor today. I have been working with you for quite a long time,
Mhm.
and I know you've had quite a few connections to the She is Your Neighbor world, so I'm excited that you get to be featured on it too.
Me too. Thank you for inviting me.
Of course. Do you want to just start out by telling us a little bit about yourself?
Absolutely. So, my name is Leigh. As you mentioned, my pronouns are she and her. I live here in the KW region. I've been living here for several years now. I would say that I am a parent, I'm a partner, I'm a sister, I'm a daughter. I'm a neighbor. I am a settler on this land. Work very hard to understand and decolonize myself and my practices. I've been working here for about 6.5 years ish. My role here is just one piece of who I am. I also have a side practice as well, private practice. I am an energy practitioner. I work with my partner doing EDI work. Yeah, I bring all of that into my everyday work here at Women's Crisis Services.
Yeah, thank you. I
Mhm.
know that EDI has been such a big part of your role here and your
Uh-huh.
role generally in life. So it's been really great over our time getting to work together on those kinds of things and having you lead our EDI initiatives for a while. So it's been really great to work with you. But aside from that, you are the residential manager of our emergency shelter in Cambridge, Haven House. I was wondering if you could tell us a little bit about that role and the
Mhm.
residential program.
Yeah. I love my job. I love working at Haven House. I work with a very dynamic team of residential workers, and my big job is to support them and to care for the team as they care and they support and they advocate and they walk alongside the residents. And I help work with them to help problem solve, to help advocate, and to help to create and cultivate a space at Haven House where they can show up as their best self. They can support each other. They can support the residents. That's one small piece of what I do every day within the residential program. Also, oversee a very small but mighty food and nutrition team. We have three highly skilled chefs. They work out of both houses, Kitchener and here at Haven House. And I also work with our child and youth team as well. Our child and youth workers do a lot of work with our kids and with our parents. They work alongside the residential workers, really trying to provide a family centered approach, doing a lot of safety planning with the kids, doing a lot of safety planning with the parents as well, and just supporting the kiddos during this transition. That's kind of my
Mhm.
job in a nutshell.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the residential program is interesting because I think when you think of shelters, a lot
Mhm.
of people don't think of what our facilities look like. I
Yeah.
know that we've kind of touched on that a little bit when we talked to Christina and Christy in their episode, but I like to say we have a menu of programs and services,
Mhm.
and folks can kind of choose whatever's best for them. So,
Absolutely.
would you mind highlighting some of the different programs or therapies that we have in our shelters for people to access?
Yeah, absolutely. We have our clinical team where they are able to offer one on one clinical support for the adults, for the residents. We also have Kathy Lepp, who is our music therapist extraordinaire. She provides fantastic support to the residents. We also have a number of different groups that our residential team will offer. Like we have a Wednesday night craft group where residents can just come in and they can make whatever it is that they desire. We have a nurse practitioner who comes in who helps to fill gaps with healthcare support. We also have a monk who comes in regularly to offer meditation. We'll be offering some trauma informed yoga very soon with the residents. We offer a number of different cooking programs for the adults. Kids can sometimes join as well. We have different clinical groups like Moving Beyond or Safe Steps. We also have our coffee time, which is a very low key, very informal space where both staff and residents, we all come together, share a cup of coffee, whole host of different options. We also have Dr. Kathy, who
Mhm.
is our in-house psychiatrist, and she is able to meet with residents as well who are needing some support.
Yeah, thank you.
Mhm.
It's really cool how we are really able to tailor the support to each individual
Mhm.
person as they
Mhm.
come in and whatever it is they need, we're able to support them with that. I know similar to our outreach support services, we also help with like housing
Yeah.
applications and primary workers can help with different things. If folks are like looking for jobs, they can maybe help with like some resume editing and like those kinds of
Mhm.
things. So I think it's really incredible the work we're able to do, especially being able to tailor it specifically to each family.
Absolutely. It's so important to be able to look at each individual as their own self and their own journey
Mhm.
and their own story, and being able to connect them to the people and the things that they need in order to support them to move beyond shelter. I'm
Mhm.
always telling my team that we should be the least significant relationship in somebody's life, and our job is to connect them to other people, other resources, other places, because we're temporary, we're short term, and we should not be the solution to everything, which is why part of my role as well is to build partnerships with community members and to bring them into shelters to offer programming right here so that when folks do discharge, then they have a whole host of other individuals who they can call for support that is not necessarily us. So I'm often working with the team around, let's build this community of network. Our job is to help facilitate and orchestrate that circle so that when somebody does discharge, that they're surrounded by that support.
Yeah, I think that's such an important part of our role here, just
Mhm.
generally, whether it be the residential program or outreach services, is making
Mhm.
sure that people do have that wraparound support for when they do move on.
Yeah.
Another thing that I know our CEO, Jen, has been talking about a lot, especially in the last year, is how prevention work really plays into the shelter.
Mhm.
And there's a lot of education that happens, especially with kids,
Uh-huh.
to, kind of facilitate proper understanding of healthy relationships so
Mhm.
that people don't continue that cycle on later in life. Prevention is something that we've really focused a lot on in the last 2 years or so. And
Mhm.
She is Your Neighbor is one of the big parts of that.
Mhm.
And I was wondering if I know you have lots of connections to She Is
Mhm.
Your Neighbor
Mhm.
personally. But I was wondering if you had a few episodes that you'd like to highlight as your favorites or the most impactful to you and why.
I mean, that's a loaded question because I have a lot of people who I love very dearly who have been on the show. So, I mean, I could
Mhm.
give you one per season. So, but I will limit that to maybe two of my top favorite. The first I would say is hands down Kieran from season one. I truly, and Kieran talked about challenges that trans youth face, and I love his episode because he really specifically named the challenges within the shelter systems for trans and non-binary folks, because these systems, this shelter system in general, was not created for trans or non-binary folks. It was created for heterosexual, cisgendered white women,
Mhm.
and he names that specifically, that these spaces were not created for the rainbow community. I am queer, and I truly believe that Kieran's episode really helped to launch our organization to expand our mandate to include transgender and non-binary folks. My time being here, that has always been a question that I have always had around if somebody is transgender and they are experiencing violence, because we know that there's a disproportionate rate of violence within queer and trans relationships, there are no supports. And
Mhm.
these spaces that should be available are not created to support in a way that the rainbow community needs. Safety looks different, risk looks differently. And I love Kieran's episode because he just went right on into it. And like I said, I really believe that that episode really helped to open things up for us to have the conversation around opening up our mandate and
Mhm.
what would that look like.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't even think that it stopped at just supporting LGBTQ folks either, because then it really launched us into what our EDI journey looks like, and
Mhm.
that's obviously an ongoing journey that will never stop,
Yeah.
and I think it really was, like, the catalyst for changing some of our really outdated procedures that we had
Yes,
in shelters to be able to support more people who really need it.
absolutely. And we still have a long, long way to go,
Of course.
but having the conversation, that is the first step. And so I love the work that we're doing right now, and I think we're heading in the right direction.
Mhm.
I think later on in the episodes, in the seasons, was it season fi 5? No, 6. Iona's episode. I can't remember which season that was
I
in.
think it's season 6. I think it's
Was
in
that
Back to
season 6?
Basics.
Okay,
Yes.
that was season 6. So
Mhm.
Iona is my partner, so I am, like, really super biased, obviously, but Iona's episode was obviously my second favorite, if not my favorite. Kieran is also a dear friend, so give them
Just
both
a little
love.
bias, it's okay.
Just a little bit biased, of course, but, Iona's episode, I have the privilege of being able to see their journey in healing, their journey in advocating around violence within queer relationships, and what does that look like? How do we assess risk? The nuances of it, and so when they were came on as a speaker for the season 6, I was just so elated and so happy that they were able to share their story and really speak about an issue that that we don't talk about. Queer violence, relationships within queer violence, there's a disproportionate rate. There's significant underreporting. When we talk about programming as well, folks don't want to attend any programming because there is risk associated with any sort of intervention as well. And
Mhm.
those are things that we don't talk about. And I love those 2 episodes between Kieran and Iona because they were brave enough to speak to some of the challenges within the queer community, within the rainbow community.
Mhm. Something that really stood out to me with Iona's episode, and I think about it very often. There are some episodes that, they always just have that one thing that sticks
Mhm,
with you. Was Iona saying that even though, it happened quite a while ago,
mhm,
their experience of violence, you can't report it because
mhm.
you're just trying to prove that you have a right to live. You
Yeah.
can't also bring the struggles
Mhm,
associated with being a queer person into it when
mhm.
you're just trying to prove that you should be allowed to exist.
Yeah.
And that's something like I have chills right now.
Mhm,
Like thinking about that, like I think it really changed my perspective on
mhm.
how I view violence in queer relationships. And I think it's a
Mhm,
really important thing that we need to think about is that people are just people and they just
mhm,
happen to love who they love. But
mhm.
the intersections of violence are all there and
Uh,
they're just amplified because it's harder to just exist.
Exactly. Exactly. And a layer to that as well when you do report, because we have so many biases, we have so many assumptions that depending on what somebody's presentation is, that we automatically have assumptions that if somebody is more female presenting, then we automatically assume that that individual is the victim. Or if
Mhm.
somebody is more mask presenting, then we assume that they're the perpetrator of violence, which
Mhm.
is not always the case, which adds a complicated layer when you are reporting. And we know that there's ton of work that needs to happen within our system, within education, within the police system as well, to create
Mhm.
those safe spaces for reporting.
So, Lee, as we wrap up here, we want to ask the question that we ask every
Yeah,
single one of our guests.
yeah.
And obviously, She is Your
Mhm.
Neighbor is about being better neighbors to people who are experiencing violence. So, I was wondering how you think we could all be better neighbors to people who are experiencing gender based violence.
I love this. I have a huge community development root, background, and I have always believed the best way that we can be good neighbors is to show up for each other. Ask each other, "How are you doing?" If somebody is struggling, offer them a little bit of help. Offer an ear to them. Offer support where they need it. Really checking in with people. I feel like, especially post-pandemic, we become so separated that we need
Hmm.
to come back towards each other, find ourselves together, and remember that we are all just humans really trying to do the very best that we can. And if we all moved through the world in a kind, compassionate, caring, mindful way as to how we all move through the world in different ways, I think that's one way where we can be better neighbors.
Yeah, and I think another layer of that is being genuine about it too.
Yeah.
Because I think people can really tell if you're asking someone like the classic, like, "Oh, how are you doing?"
Yeah.
versus a genuine, like, "I can tell something is wrong. Are
Yeah.
you okay?" So
Absolutely.
I love
Yeah.
that point. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for being here with us, Leigh. We really, really appreciate you being on the show, and we really value your perspective. And yeah, I just really appreciate you being here. So thank you.
Well, thank you, Lily, for all that you do. And while I'm here, I'm just going to give a shout out to you, actually, Lily, because I've said it many times. You have got a really hard job. And I appreciate all that you do as well. You are
Thank you,
deeply
Leigh.
valued.
Thank you.